What's going on, guys? So it's getting to be that time of year that we're starting to think about those pelagic fish a little bit more, doing some offshore fishing. This is something that we tie up for those kingfish. It's got a nice long shank hook. Try to keep that that knot and that leader outside of that fish's mouth because they got some gnarly teeth. That'll, it'll cut through your 60-pound mono, no problem. So a lot of times we're throwing a some 65 to 80-pound nylon wrapped wire right off the hook, so they don't chomp through it quite as easily. But I'm gonna give you a little video on how I tied this guy up. So the hook I'm using, it's just I went and got some eagle claw hooks from Tackle Town here in Rockport. It's just a 2x times long shank hook. Gets the job done pretty well. You want to use a pretty thick thread. This is some Danville's 210. Something nice and sturdy to help you secure all this fiber down real well. I need to tighten this vise up a little more. There we go. So get yourself a nice thread base. Start right about the middle of the hook. Start working back. And then I want to give this thing a little bit of weight. So you can take some lead wire, and you're going to put a lot on there. 10 to 12 inches of lead wire. Wrap this all back. You get that thread base on there, it kind of helps this lead wire not slip around so much. That's the idea. Keep that stuff out of the way. I start wrapping in the back end of it. Just make sure you're getting all these real tight, because you're gonna have to get thread over it. And the tighter you get these things wrapped, the easier it is to wrap this with your thread instead of just going through the grooves. So get to the end of it and then start wrapping back over itself. Helps you keep a little bit more weight forward. And you just want to start wrapping back over that. And what I do is I try to do it at an angle so it doesn't fall in those grooves quite as easily. I'll do it angled backwards first. A lot of times you want to do real light wraps just to get it on there, and then you can make it tighter as you start to fill all those gaps. And then you do it the opposite direction, so you're making kind of this cross. Come on. This part doesn't need to be pretty. It's just the inside of the fly. So now I'm starting to get real tight with these wraps. What I'm gonna do in a sec is I'm gonna come back with some pliers and smash this down a little bit. This is just making it a little, so it's not so round, right? Again, wrap that tight again. Perfect. So then what I'm using is, I don't have the package anymore, but this is some different color, and it's Steve Farrar's. It's a synthetic fiber, lots of flash in it. I'm not using purple, I'm using this kind of teal green, blue green color. And I'm just gonna snip this piece off right here, take a little bit out because it's just a little too bulky. Nice thing about this fiber is it doesn't hold water. So it just, you know, it's not gonna take a while to absorb that water and sink. It's just gonna sink. It's gonna go right through the water and down to the depth that you want it. So cut that off. Start pulling out a little bit to the thickness that you like. That's about good. Get that to the right length. Let's see, it's about double the hook shank is the right length. Go. You're gonna build this up just behind the head that thicker part. Give it a few wraps and then kind of start working it around that hook and all that lead. And then get that thing real tight. You can even put some super glue on here if you don't feel like you're getting these wraps tight enough. As long as you're using a thick enough thread, you can really get this stuff tied down well. And again, so I'm going to come back here again, flatten out a little bit. When you flatten it out, it's going to help you get these eyes on better later. And then we're going to build a little head. I'm going to use some Foxy Brush. This is an 1.5 inch Foxy Brush. This is a blue and black combo. More blue in there than the black. But a blue is a great color for those offshore fish. Just mimics those bait fish that they're after real well. I like to pull these out a little bit, just get it a little bit thinner. Because one thing about this brush is that it's kind of bulky. You don't want this thing to be too bulky so that it sinks down in the water real well, nice and quick. Just secure that right up to the end of your wraps that you have on there. Again, get some good wraps on there, so make sure it doesn't go anywhere. don't need much. You know, you're just getting some color in there. So it's 1, 2 wraps I think is going to be good for it. Let's go 1 more. Just because I built that head up a little bit bigger. Secure that down. Pull all those fibers back, give it a few wraps just to make sure they kind of all bend nice and back towards the end of the hook. I'm just going to clean it all up, get all those loose fibers. Here's the reason that we like to get that all nice and flat. So now I'm gonna put some eyes on here, and these are, what are these? Ice colored. They're pretty big. This is a bigger bait fish. All those predator fish, they love to see those eyes. Stick 1 back here. Oops, before we do that though, I'm gonna secure this down. You just need it to stick on there just a little bit until you're able to get your epoxy on. Move those back just a little bit. So now you're going to need some UV cure epoxy. This is some loon hardhead. Scoop it up in there between the eyes. Just move it around a bit. This part is just kind of getting those eyes locked into place. So I'm going to hit it with my UV light. Should be stuck in place. Yep, there we go. And we'll flip it. Get some on this underside. And I'm going to glob this one pretty good because now I'm going to start getting it all over those eyes. So we don't want those eyes to go anywhere. That with your light. Could goop some more on there, but it's not really necessary. And then for this top side, like I did this one, just to give it a nice little, contrast, some lateral line, I'm gonna work down the top edge of it with just a black Sharpie. I just lay it down on my desk, just work it down the back. That's it. Not a very tough fly, but that's gonna look great in that water. The Steve Ferris has a lot of flash to it, so as soon as that sunlight hits it, it'll be shining real nice. But there you go. Nice offshore fly. It's great for kingfish. These are the colors those kingfish really like. That long shank keeps it out of their mouth and away from those gnarly teeth. But give it a shot. Get out there and chase some big fish around.